This is my 1988 Volkswagen Scirocco 16-valve, a super fun, sporty, compact car that was often forgotten by the general public and even overlooked by fans of performance cars of the era. Lately, I've been thinking that this funky, fast hatchback should get more recognition. Today, let's talk about it. The Scirocco began life in the 70s as a Giugiaro-designed Golf-based coupe to replace the Karmann Ghia.
A hot car from Volkswagen. As swift and powerful as the wind it's named after. Scirocco, with front-wheel drive that handles like nothing you've ever driven before. Scirocco, the hot one from Volkswagen.
The second gen had a more sleek in-house design and came to the US as an '82 model year. It retained the wedge-shaped philosophy, but refined it a bit more for the Reagan era.
Take a fast look at Volkswagen's '82 Scirocco. As you can see, it's been totally redesigned. Take a closer look and you'll see a lower, aerodynamically sleeker front end, curved glass areas, and a functional rear spoiler for better handling and performance, all of which makes the '82 Scirocco one good-looking German sports car.
And from mid-'86 to '88, we got this totally rad 16-valve model, complete with a 16-valve 1.8-liter engine. And this was Volkswagen's answer to those that said that the 8-valve Scirocco was underpowered. The 16-valve completely amped up the Scirocco's design with a full body kit, a cool, squishy spoiler, 14-inch teardrop wheels, and distinctive badging that let everybody know that you were driving something special. Mine right here is an '88, the last year for the 16-valve in the States.
German-engineered 16-valve Volkswagen Scirocco.
It should be outlawed.
Ma.
Your father used to own a Volkswagen. It was a nice little car. This is not a nice little car.
It's not supposed to be. This is the 80s. Power, control. That's what really counts.
I'm sure it does. Could you please pull over?
You want to drive?
I want to walk.
Volkswagen never really sold that many here. I couldn't find an exact figure, but I've seen some estimates put it at around 10,000 16-valves sold here total. And over the years, many of those have seen their fate in junkyards and crushers. This car is almost 40 years old and not many are left on the road anymore. I don't think I've actually seen another Scirocco, let alone a Scirocco 16-valve, on the road in like 2 decades, aside from like a Radwood car show where I think I've seen maybe 1 or 2. Now obviously, die-hard Volkswagen fans know all about its performance and handling prowess, but other sport compact cars of the era often received more attention, leaving many enthusiasts unaware at just how capable the Scirocco 16-valve actually was. The big deal with the Scirocco 16-valve, of course, were those magical 16-valve badges, and beneath that slanted hood sat Volkswagen's 1.8-liter dual overhead cam 4-cylinder capable of 123 horsepower and 120 pound-feet of torque in US trim. Those numbers may not sound earth-shattering today, but back then, dual overhead cam engines with 16 valves were kind of a big deal. At the time, many small cars had 8 or 12-valve engines and weren't really up to the task of providing an exhilarating driving experience. Dual overhead cams and 16 valves were the future. And with those 123 horses back in '86, the Scirocco was the most powerful and fastest Volkswagen to date.
1.8 liters, dual overhead cams, Bosch KE Jetronic fuel injection, and 4 free-breathing valves per cylinder.
0 to 60 times were in the 8 to 9 second range, which again, rewind your brain back to the late 80s, that was actually considered quite decent. Car and driver clocked the 16-valve through the quarter mile in 16.2 seconds at 85 miles per hour. Solid figures for a front drive coupe back then. The Scirocco 16-valve could cut through corners with a precision that few sport compact coupes of the era could match. Road and Track praised the willingness of the engine to rev cleanly to the red line and noted how the Scirocco could hang with more powerful rivals thanks to its lightweight and close ratio gearbox. Even with all of this praise, the car's reputation never fully caught on here in the US, leaving it sort of as a hidden gem for those willing to dig a little bit deeper. Even when I was a kid in the '90s, I almost never saw Sciroccos, until I actually bought one when I was 20 years old, a red 16-valve with leather seats, power windows, and even a sunroof. I felt so cool in that thing. And back then, even as a dumb 20-year-old kid, I knew that the Scirocco 16 valve was something special. It was quick for the era, it looked totally rad, and it was a lot of fun on a winding road. The 16 valve didn't just give you power, it gave you control too. Volkswagen lowered the suspension, stiffened things up, and gave you these larger 14-inch teardrop wheels. With pretty quick steering and a lightweight chassis, the Scirocco was really meant for carving corners. It was a lot of fun. For all its flair, the Scirocco 16 valve did have a secret. Underneath that bodywork was essentially the same platform that had debuted way back in 1974, so not exactly modern. We've got independent suspension up front, but a torsion beam out back in an era when some rivals had fully independent suspension, both front and rear. But honestly, it didn't really matter. The car still handled remarkably well, considering its less refined underpinnings. Car and Driver skid pad testing recorded 0.79 Gs, and Motor Trend managed 0.82 Gs of lateral grip, quite sticky for a car back then. And yes, there is the possibility of some understeer here, and even some surprise oversteer if you're not paying attention. But overall, the car is a ton of fun if you keep this in mind. It can be quite precise on a winding back road. While the Scirocco 16 valve had proven that Volkswagen could make a fun, fast, and super cool looking sport compact car, it didn't exactly take the world by storm, but ultimately not that many were sold. And this could likely be due to the price. It was a fair amount more expensive than the majority of sport compact cars of the era, at a time when the Scirocco sheet metal was feeling a bit long in the tooth, and the more basic chassis wasn't quite as modern as the fully independent suspension of some rivals. Road and Track mentioned that Volkswagen wants a premium price for the Scirocco, and you'll have to really love the look and the feel to pay it. And that made the 16 valve something of a boutique choice for the driver who wanted German styling and didn't mind paying extra for exclusivity. Fast forward to the present, and the Scirocco 16 valve has achieved cult status among some enthusiasts. Its analog driving feel, lightweight chassis, and totally rad wedge-shaped styling are now celebrated for their pure, unfiltered charm. And some collectors appreciate the fact that US spec 16 valves were relatively rare, making them kind of a standout at car shows. And of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention automotive journalist Jason Camisa. He owns a beautiful silver Scirocco 16 valve with a lot of updates and upgrades. He's owned his Scirocco for ages, and he's praised his 16 valve as being a great overlooked German sports coupe of the 80s. His ownership has certainly helped shine a spotlight on the model, reminding everyone what made it so special. I've owned this Tornado Red 1988 Scirocco 16 valve for about a year, and it turns heads everywhere I go, not only because of the bright red paint and the slightly unusual design, but because people are just genuinely excited to have a long lost memory rekindled. If you want to find one for yourself, here in the States they can be a bit difficult to come by, though they do pop up for sale from time to time, and there have been quite a few available on Bring a Trailer over the years, and that's where I found this one. So when it comes to pricing on these, values for clean original Scirocco 16 valves have been steadily climbing. As of 2025, well-maintained examples seem to be going between like 12 grand and 20 grand, with some pristine low mileage cars sometimes exceeding that range. But there are sometimes some projects under 10 grand that I've seen. If you can actually find one for sale, it's a rare chance to own a fun analog coupe with genuine period charm. Though in my experience, having owned two of these things, I'm not sure they're exactly the pinnacle of reliability. My first Scirocco needed more repairs than I could count, and even this completely restored example needed a new cooling fan and a fuel pump. Some of the parts weren't the easiest to find either. One of the fuel pump hoses I needed was only available in the UK. So if you're in the market for a Scirocco 16 valve, know that some work and patience might be required when it comes to maintenance. In the late 80s, the Volkswagen Scirocco 16 valve was a wonderful expression of German engineering wrapped in a fun, super rad sports coupe. It wasn't the fastest or most modern car on the road, but it had personality in spades. It's sharp, it's rev happy, and super rewarding to drive. And if you want one of these things, you know what? This one right here is now up for sale. Yes, I am selling it. The previous owner spent thousands of dollars basically doing a complete restoration of this car. And after a few ups and downs with the fuel pump, I finally got everything sorted out, so the car is running beautifully now. I've owned it for about a year, and I've taken it to a bunch of car shows, including Radwood, and it's always been met with positivity and excitement. But to be frank, at almost 6'4" tall, I just don't really fit that well in it. So I find myself not really driving it as much as I would like. But if you're a bit shorter than me and you want to get in on a super rad and super fun Volkswagen from the late 80s, come grab this one. If you like this video and you want to see more like it, please consider subscribing and hitting that bell icon. If you'd like to help support the show, please buy a Hello Road t-shirt or hat at helloroad.tv/shop. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you're well, and I'll see you soon.